They said no human had ever stood inside the Hall of Trials. They said no human ever would. But on the day the skies split with silver fire and the ancient drums of the Empire shook the air, a single human walked forward with steady steps. His name was Hale, a factory worker, a nobody, the last person anyone expected to fight in a place built for warriors blessed by alien bloodlines. He had no shining crest, no carved armor, no royal symbols, only a heartbeat full of stubborn courage and a promise he refused to break. The hall curved like the inside of a great beast's ribs, each bone shimmering with starlight. Thousands of alien eyes watched from the stands, glowing in colors humans did not have names for. Some faces showed curiosity, some irritation, most disbelief. A human, competing for the right to stand beside a princess of the Empire. Impossible. But did not look at the crowd. His gaze stayed on the far dais where Princess sat in her crystalline seat, untouchable, elegant, the kind of beauty that didn't feel soft but sharp. She was the daughter of the High Empress, the last heir to the ancient telepathic bloodline, a symbol of 1,000 worlds. Everyone assumed she would be claimed by a champion of her own people, someone powerful, predictable. Yet the rules were clear. The one who won the trial of resolve earned the right to stand beside the princess and choose her fate. Didn't come for power. He didn't come for glory. He came because he had saved once, accidentally, stupidly, and had made a promise on a broken night months ago when no one else had believed she could survive. He had told her, "I won't leave you alone." The galaxy forgot that moment. Never did. Now she watched him enter the trial arena, her silver eyes calm but full of a quiet storm only understood. The trial master raised a staff carved from the spine of a star whale. "Human contestant," his voice boomed, "do you wish to withdraw before the trial begins? You face enemies beyond your strength." Breath slowly, his palms shook but his voice did not. "No, I'm here to finish what I started." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some laughter, some anger, some genuine awe. The trial master lowered his staff. "Very well, let the trial of resolve begin." A deep hum rose from the floor as glowing lines crawled across the arena like waking serpents. Stones shifted, metal unfolded. The ground opened into 12 paths filled with swirling visions, each one a memory, a fear, a burden. Stepped forward, and the first path chose him. He was pulled into a storm of red dust and cold wind. He stood on Earth, his own world, but it wasn't the Earth he remembered. It was the night his home collapsed in fire, the night he lost his older brother in the factory explosion. The air tasted of smoke. The sound of tearing steel filled his ears. He could hear his brother shouting his name, trapped under a beam had been too weak to lift. He felt that same helplessness punch him in the chest. This was the trial's first test. Face the wound that shaped your soul. Knelt beside the burning wreckage. He knew he could not change the past. The trial was not a place to rewrite history. It was a place to accept it or be crushed by it. He laid his hand on the memory of his brother's arm, warm, solid, alive. The illusion wanted him to break. It tempted him to try again, to fail again, to drown in guilt. But whispered, voice thick, "I didn't save you, but I learned from you, and I'm still walking." The fire dimmed. The memory dissolved into quiet ash that rose like soft snow. The crowd gasped when he reappeared in the arena. Some had expected him to fall before even completing the first path. The second path lit up, and he stepped in without hesitation. This time he stood in a cold, blue desert under a fractured moon. A shadowy creature taller than buildings crawled across the horizon, its claws scraping the ground, its voice whispering doubts in a dozen languages at once. "You are small. You are fragile. You are nothing worth choosing." Sphere twisted inside him, but he didn't run. He walked toward the looming creature, each step harder than the last. "I know what I am," he said, "and that's why I'm not afraid of you." The creature shattered like glass struck by sunlight. When returned to the arena again, bruised but standing tall, the hall erupted. not in cheers but in stunned silence. No one spoke, except Princess. Her voice carried like soft thunder across the hall. He will not fall. For the first time, allowed himself a small, tired smile. The next paths awaited. The trial had only begun. The glow of the third path rose beneath's feet, bright like a sunrise trapped in crystal. His legs trembled, not from fear, but exhaustion he refused to show. The hall's cold air pressed against his skin as if the whole empire were trying to measure his strength. Every watching alien still expected him to fall, the human who should not be here, standing in a place never meant for him. Yet he stepped forward. The world around him changed again, like a curtain pulled down with a single breath. He found himself standing inside a metal corridor, a ship he recognized instantly. The Crown, the vessel where he had first met Princess. Back then, he had been nothing more than cargo staff, repairing the lower engines, unaware that destiny was already listening. A sharp alarm blared down the hallway. Red lights flickered like panicked heartbeats. Smoke filled the air with the sharp taste of burning circuits, and knew exactly what this path wanted from him. This was the moment almost died. He ran through the memory, feet pounding the metal floor. Even now, the scene made his chest ache. A door was jammed halfway open and lay behind it, injured, trapped, struggling to rise as the ship shook from another impact. "Stay back," she had cried then, voice shaking from pain. "The reactors are unstable." But had not stayed back, and he didn't now. He shoved the burning door, feeling fire lick across his arms. He remembered the fear, the pain, the hopelessness. Yet he also remembered the fire inside him stronger than anything around him. In the trial's illusion, just like in reality, he crawled through the narrow gap and reached her. This time, though, her eyes were filled not with surprise, but with sorrow. "You should not have saved me," the memory version of her whispered. "If you fall now, it will be my fault." Closed his eyes, breathing hard. Living isn't a burden, losing someone is. He lifted her in his arms. Flames hit the ceiling. Metal cracked. But he pushed through the heat until the hallway began to melt into light. His arms still burned, his lungs hurt, but he kept moving. The illusion dissolved and stumbled back into the arena. Princess stood from her seat. Her hands gripped the railing so tightly the crystal bent. Her voice trembled softly as she whispered words only he could feel. "You saved me again." The trial master raised his staff. "He endures the path of sacrifice, 3 complete." The hall murmured in disbelief. A human finishing 3 paths was unheard of, and yet the 4th one lit up, waiting like a glowing mouth ready to swallow him whole. Walked forward. The 4th path launched him into a dark forest, lit only by pale blue fireflies drifting like ghosts. A cold wind blew between the trees, carrying whispers that were not his own. Voices from the crowd, voices from the empire, voices of truth and cruelty. He is not strong enough. He is not pure-blooded. He is unworthy of a princess. He does not belong among us. Each sentence hit his chest like a stone. His breath grew heavier, his steps slower. The trial was not trying to scare him now, it was trying to break his spirit. A mirror formed between the twisted trees. When looked into it, he didn't see himself. He saw a smaller version, a child hiding behind a broken fence, listening to adults say he was a burden, a mistake, someone life forgot. He closed his eyes. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "I won't let this define me." The forest darkened. The whispers grew louder. The mirror cracked but did not break. He stepped closer. "I am here because someone believed in me," said softly, "and because I learned to believe in myself." The mirror exploded into silver dust, carried away by the wind like old memories finally set free. When he returned to the arena, sweat covered his brow. His heartbeat thundered, but his eyes were steady. 4 paths completed. Halfway through, the crowd no longer laughed, no longer sneered. Now they leaned forward, unable to look away. The 5th path unfurled across the floor like a river of starlight. The trial master watched quietly, for the first time without arrogance, but with something close to respect. Whispered his name, not as a princess, but as someone who knew pain, loss, and hope the way he did. Stepped onto the fifth path, and the hall fell silent. The trial was changing. So was he. The fifth path awakened under his feet with a quiet hum. The ground glowed a soft blue, gentle at first, almost welcoming, too welcoming. Knew better now. The trial never offered comfort without a price. He stepped into the light, and the world around him shifted into something calm, warm, almost peaceful. A wide meadow stretched past the horizon, filled with soft grass that brushed against his hands. A warm sun shone above him, gentle like a memory forgotten long ago. For the first time since the trial began, felt his shoulders loosen. But peace was the most dangerous illusion. He walked across the meadow, cautious, his boots sinking slightly into the earth. A small house appeared in the distance, plain wood walls, a crooked porch, smoke rising from the chimney. It was familiar. Too familiar. His breath caught. It was the house he and his brother dreamed of building someday. Not big, not fancy, just theirs. A place where no one yelled, no one hurt them, no one walked away. Inside that house, a warm light flickered. Step slowed. "This isn't real," he whispered. The trial wanted him to want it, to choose the easy life, to abandon the pain, to forget why he walked into the hall in the first place. But the wooden door creaked open. A figure stepped out. His brother, alive, smiling, no burns on his arms, no blood, no final breath trapped under broken steel. Just the brother remembered, older, stronger, always carrying too much weight with a tired but kind grin. "Hey," the illusion said softly, "come in, rest." Felt something twist in his chest, not fear, something worse, longing. He swallowed hard. "You're not him." "But I could be," the illusion said, stepping closer. "You don't have to fight anymore. Stay here. Forget the trial. Forget the pain." His eyes burned. He wanted to step forward. He wanted to believe. He wanted to feel like a little brother one more time, safe under someone else's strength. But then he remembered his eyes, tired, frightened, yet trusting him on that broken night. He remembered the factory collapse. He remembered promises that still waited to be kept. He shook his head, slowly, painfully. "You're everything I wanted," he whispered. "But you're not real, and I can't walk away from those who still need me." The illusion's smile broke. The house cracked, the meadow dimmed. The figure of his brother faded like smoke in a cold wind. Closed his eyes as the world dissolved, leaving him trembling on his knees in the arena. His hands shook. His throat felt raw. The trial had not attacked his body this time. It had torn at the deepest part of him. The hall was silent. Not even a whisper. Princess' breath hitched when she saw him. The glow around her eyes shimmered, as if she felt his pain through the bond the trial sometimes awakened. The trial master spoke, his voice softer now. 5 paths endured, 2 remain. Rose, legs unsteady. Sweat dripped down his jaw, every wound, physical and emotional, pressed against him like weight he could not ignore. But he stood anyway. As the 6th path glowed open before him, the arena lights dimmed. This path was darker, colder, as if carved from the void between stars. He stepped in. Instantly, he was surrounded by shadows shaped like people, hundreds of figures with no faces, no voices. They swayed like empty reflections. Then the shadows moved as one, pointing at him. "You do not matter. You will fail. You are alone." The voices were not loud. They were quiet, too quiet, like thoughts whispered deep inside his own mind. Clenched his fists. The shadows grew closer, reaching for him with hands that felt like ice on his skin. The more he fought them, the thicker they became. They wrapped around his ankles, pulling him down. He fell to one knee, breath shaking. For a moment, he believed the whispers. Maybe he was alone. Then he heard it, faint, distant, but real. A voice calling his name. Not from the illusion. From the real world. From the arena. Her Her voice was steady, warm, bright enough to cut through the cold. The shadows trembled, felt a spark ignite inside him again. He forced himself up, one step, another. His muscles screamed, but his heart did not. "I'm not alone," he said. Light flared around him. The shadows dissolved like dust scattered by wind. The void cracked open into blinding white as the sixth path vanished. Fell forward into the arena, barely catching himself. 6 paths done. Only one remained. The final pass. The hall felt different now, quieter, heavier with expectation. Even those who despised him watched with wide eyes, breath held. Stood not as a princess, not as royalty, but as someone whose faith had been tested and strengthened. Her voice trembled with emotion only could truly understand. "One more," she whispered. Nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "One more pass. One last trial." And then the choice no one expected. The seventh path did not glow like the others. It did not shine or hum or breathe with soft colors. It opened in silence, an empty stretch of darkness that swallowed the arena lights like a curtain closing before the last act. His chest rose and fell as he stared into that void. His body felt heavy, every muscle trembling from the 6 brutal paths he had survived. Sweat slid down his temples. His hands were scraped, cut, and shaking. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. But his heart still beat with stubborn fire. The trial master stepped forward, staff glowing faintly. "This is the final path," he said. "The path of truth. It tests not strength or courage, but the core of who you are. If you fail here, everything ends." Breathed in slowly, the air tasted colder than before. "I understand." "Do you?" the master asked quietly. "Many warriors pass the first 6 paths, none pass this one, for it shows what you fear most, not losing, not pain, but the truth you hide from yourself." Didn't answer, he didn't need to. He stepped into the darkness, and the world vanished. He stood in pitch-black silence, no ground beneath him, no sky above him, just a floating space without shape, the kind of emptiness that made his heart jump in confusion. Then a soft light blinked on in front of him, just one. A tiny pale star floating in the void. He reached toward it before he heard something. Footsteps, but not his. A figure stepped into the dim glow, tall, graceful, wearing flowing silver robes. Her hair shimmered like white fire and her eyes glowed with ancient power. Princess, but not the real ones. This version of her stood with an expression had never seen on her face before. Disappointment. Deep, unshakable disappointment, like a wound carved into her soul. "You fought so hard," the illusion said, voice calm and cold. "But you are still unworthy." Froze. The illusion of moved closer. "Do you truly believe you can stand beside me, before my people, before worlds that breathe power you cannot even imagine?" "Wouldn't say that," whispered. The illusion tilted her head. "Wouldn't she? You call yourself strong, but every step you took was heavy with doubt. You fought, yes. But inside, you fear you are not enough. You fear you were never meant to be chosen." Clenched his shaking fists. The void pulsed with each harsh word. "You think saving me once makes you special?" the illusion asked. "It only makes you reckless, it makes you weak." Took a breath, slow, painful. "Maybe I am afraid," he said. "Maybe I don't belong here, maybe everyone is right." The illusion smiled, soft and cruel. "Then leave, walk away, no one will remember you." Lowered his head, then straightened it again. "But I do," he said quietly. I remember who I was, who I became, and why I'm here." "And why is that?" the illusion asked. He stared at the fake. "Because I made a promise, not to a princess, to a person." The illusion's smile faded. His voice grew steadier. "You're not her, you're my fear talking, the part of me that thinks I'm nothing. I lived with that voice my whole life." He stepped forward. "Not anymore." The void shook. The illusion cracked like glass, splintering from her feet upward. "You cannot escape truth," she hissed. Reached out and touched her shoulder. I'm not escaping, I'm facing it. The illusion shattered into thousands of tiny lights. The void collapsed around him, replaced by a flood of warm gold that lifted him off his feet. Light rushed over him like wind, filling his chest with a deep, peaceful strength. Then, he fell forward, landing hard on the arena floor. Gasps filled the hall. Pushed up on trembling arms, his vision blurred, but he saw the truth. He had made it. He had survived all 7 paths. His whole body felt like it was made of fire and dust, but he was still breathing. Still standing. The trial master stared down at him with wide eyes. A human completed the trial. The hall erupted, not with cheers, but with shock. Some warriors shouted in anger, some stared in awe, some whispered, unable to understand what they had witnessed. But heard only one voice. The princess ran down the steps of her dais, her royal composure forgotten. She knelt beside him, her breath trembling, her eyes bright with emotion no illusion could copy. "You did it," she whispered. He gave a tired smile. "Told you I wouldn't leave you alone." The trial master lifted his staff, voice booming across the hall. "The trial is won." But the victory was only half the story. Now came the part no one expected. The claiming. The choosing. The moment that would change the empire. In hearts, forever. The Hall of Trials had witnessed victories before. But never silence like this. Stood in the center of the arena, swaying slightly, breath ragged, bruises blooming across his skin like dark flowers. Every step of the final path still echoed inside him. Yet he stood tall, refusing to fall in front of those who doubted him. Princess remained beside him, her hand hovering inches from his arm as if afraid touching him might break him. Her silver eyes glowed softly, concern, pride, and something deeper hidden beneath all the royal duty she carried. Before either of them could speak, the trial master raised his staff. "All who win the trial," he declared, "earn the right to claim the princess. By law of the ancient right, the victor may choose her future, bond, alliance, or release." A ripple of shock moved through the hall. Some elders leaned forward, jaws tight. A few warriors hissed under their breath. Others watched with strange curiosity. A human given such a choice. Impossible. Unthinkable. Exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of every staring eye pressing on him. He didn't want attention. He didn't want power. He wanted to breathe. He wanted to rest. But most of all, he wanted to remember why he had come here. Stepped closer, voice quiet. "The choice is yours." Those words alone shook the entire hall. He turned to her, and for a moment the world fell away. He didn't see her crown, her royal robes, her status. He saw the woman who had fought to survive. The woman who once held his hand in a burning hallway, not as a princess, but as a frightened soul who didn't want to die alone. The woman who, months later, looked at him like his presence meant something. Swallowed hard. "I came here because I made a promise. I didn't know what this trial really meant. I didn't know what choice I'd have to make." Her breath caught. He turned, facing the thousands watching him. Their eyes glowed in every color imaginable, some burning with anger, some with fear, some with hope. His voice shook only a little. "I didn't fight to own anyone or to take someone's future away. I fought because she deserved someone who didn't run from her." His hand lifted to her chest, trembling. "I don't want to claim a princess," continued, louder this time. "I want to stand beside, not because I won a trial, but because I choose her." Gasps filled the hall. The trial master's eyebrows shot up. "Then your claim is—" Shook his head. "No, not a royal claim, not a binding. My choice is to let her choose." The hall exploded with whispers. "What did he say?" "He refuses the right. He gives her the decision." Even the trial master looked stunned. "Human, the right does not work that way. She does not choose the victor chooses her." Met his gaze steadily, then changed the meaning, "because I won't force anything." His eyes shimmered, not with shock, but with emotion so deep it softened the entire hall. She stepped forward, If he will not claim me, then let me make the choice. The trial master hesitated, the weight of tradition heavy on his shoulders, but the hall was already hanging onto her every word. Looked at truly looked. Her voice was soft but firm. Hail, when you saved me, you treated me as a person, not a crown. When you faced your darkness, you walked alone but never let go of light. When everyone doubted you, you still fought. He swallowed, unable to speak. I choose, she whispered, to stand with you. The hall froze. The empire froze, and felt like the world tilted beneath him. Are you sure? She reached out, finally touching his hand. Her fingertips were cool, trembling just slightly. I am, not because of the trial, not because of duty, but because you saw me when my own people turned away. Closed his eyes for a moment, letting her words sink into every painful corner of him. The trial master cleared his throat, voice unsteady. Then, by proclamation of the hall, a new precedent is formed. The princess chooses the victor as the victor chose her freedom. It was history unfolding, law-breaking, hearts challenging a 1,000-year-old empire. And still could think only one thing. I didn't expect this, he whispered. Gave a small, soft smile. No one expected you, Hail. Before anything more could be said, the ground beneath them rumbled. The lights flickered. A warning alarm echoed from distant towers. The trial was over. But something else, something dark, had just begun. The hall shook as if a giant hand pressed against its walls. Crystals overhead flickered, sending scattered beams across the stunned faces of the crowd. For a moment, no one moved, not even the guards posted at the edges of the arena. Only the deep, rising tremor continued. His breath caught, what's happening? Before she could answer, the trial master slammed his staff against the floor. A pulse of light rippled across the hall, steadying the trembling ground. The boundaries have been breached, he announced grimly. Something or someone has entered the palace's outer shield. Whispers spread like wildfire. Impossible. No one can break the royal barrier. Is it the rebels? Or the outsiders from the rift? His pulse quickened. He had just survived the trial. He had barely recovered his breath. But now a new threat pressed at the doors, one he did not understand. His expression became sharp, alert, no longer soft with emotion, but royal and fierce. The trial is finished. We must evacuate the hall. Before could protest, she took his arm, not as a princess claiming someone, but as someone who refused to let him face danger alone. Come with me, she said. A group of armored guards, their armor glowing with shifting patterns, rushed down from the stands. They formed a protective circle around and guiding them toward a side passage. But they didn't make it far. The great doors at the front of the hall blew inward with a thunderous roar. Shards of shimmering crystal scattered across the floor like broken stars. The whole hall gasped as a wave of icy wind swept through the chamber. And behind that wind, a tall, cloaked figure stepped inside, moving with eerie calm. His cloak fluttered with storm-like energy, and the air around him warped slightly, as if gravity bent at his presence. When he lifted his head, his eyes glowed faint blue, cold, emotionless. Felt a chill crawl down his spine. One of the elders shouted in recognition. A shade, but they vanished centuries ago. The cloaked intruder spoke, his voice echoing unnaturally. Princess, you will come with me. Lifted her chin, refusing to show fear. You have no right to be here. State your purpose. The shade stepped forward. The ancient bond of your bloodline carries a secret, one the Empire has buried. We come to reclaim what was stolen. Didn't understand the words, but he saw the way stiffened. Something about the shade's presence shook her deeply. She whispered, barely audible, they shouldn't exist. The guards raised their weapons, forming a line between her and the intruder. Energy blades hummed, shields crackled. The shade didn't flinch. When the trial ended, he said, the seal weakened, now the air is exposed. Stepped in front of instinctively. Her hand tightened around his sleeve in shock. You don't have to. I do, he said softly. I'm not letting anything take you. The shade turned his glowing eyes toward him. You are the human who survived the trial. Not admiration. Not anger. Just acknowledgement. You are irrelevant, the shade added, raising a hand. A wave of force shot forward, pure energy like a collapsing storm. Braced, but before the wave hit, stepped beside him and threw up both hands. Her fingers glowed with pale silver light. A shimmering barrier expanded outward, meeting the blast head-on. The collision cracked the air. The shockwave hurled dust across the hall. Shattered tiles skidded across the floor. Staggered, nearly falling, but held her stance, pushing back with everything she had. The shade lowered his hand. So the princess still carries the dormant power, he murmured. Good, then the prophecy remains intact. His voice shook. Stay away from this is my fight. His heart twisted. No, it's ours. The shade's eyes narrowed. He lifted both arms this time. The air thickened with storm-like force, 10 times stronger than the first blast. Guards were knocked backward. Crystals overhead dimmed. The hall trembled again, harder than before. Grabbed, pulling her behind one of the fallen barriers, as the new blast tore across the arena. Shards of light flew like knives. The world became a blur of noise and swirling debris. When the force finally died down, the hall was in ruins. The shade still stood unharmed, unshaken. Guards struggled to rise. Elders hid behind fractured pillars, and pulled himself up, his body screaming in pain. Knelt beside him, placing a trembling hand on his cheek. Are you hurt? Not enough to stop me, he whispered. Her eyes softened with something fierce, something protective, something that didn't care about empires. Footsteps echoed again, the shade walking toward them. Helped her stand. They faced him together. They had survived the trial. Now they had to survive each other's past. And a war neither of them knew was coming. The shade's footsteps echoed like slow heartbeats. Each step cracked the broken tiles beneath him. The Hall of Trials, once bright and full of ancient pride, now lay in ruins, shattered pillars, fallen banners, echoes of fear drifting like dust in the air. Stood in front of his body hurt, his strength nearly gone, but his resolve sharper than ever. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't chosen by destiny. He was just a human who refused to walk away. The shade stopped a few meters from them, cloak shifting like a quiet storm. You cannot protect her, he said calmly. Your kind was not built for this conflict. Wiped blood from his lip. Maybe not, but here I am anyway. Stepped forward, shoulders squared, her voice steady despite the tremor in the air. If you want me, then face me directly. Leave him out of this. You misunderstand, princess, the shade replied. You cannot face what is coming. You were born with power meant for us, not for this empire. You are the lost heir of the line. Gasps echoed among the remaining elders. Whispers rushed like wind. His heart pounded. Is it true? Her eyes lowered, shimmering with conflict. It is a secret my mother hid to keep me safe. I carry a power older than our empire, a power others want to control. Understood something then. This wasn't about a princess. This was about a weapon, hidden inside someone who never wanted it. Looked at him, voice soft. I didn't tell you because I didn't want my past to become your burden. He gave a weak smile. Too late, I picked that burden up the day I saved you. The shade raised a hand again, energy gathering like a swirling comet. His voice sharpened. Run. Not happening, he replied. The blast fired, huge, roaring enough to tear the stone beneath their feet. Didn't think, he didn't plan, he didn't care about fear. He threw himself in front of. But before the blast could hit him, a burst of silver light erupted from his palms, brighter than anything she had summoned before. It wrapped around like a shield, then expanded outward in a radiant wave that crashed into the shade with tremendous force. The blast shook the hall. The ground cracked. The walls trembled. The shade staggered for the first time. His cloak flickered, his form flickered. Collapsed to her knees, panting, her body shaking violently. Caught her before she fell. What did you do?" "I gave too much," she whispered, barely breathing. "I don't know how to control it." The shade regained balance, voice colder than ever. "Impressive, but incomplete. You cannot use your true power without destroying yourself." Anger ignited. "Then she won't use it, I'll protect her." The shade tilted his head. "A human protecting a princess? Foolish." "We're both foolish," said, "and that's why we win." The shade raised his hand for one final strike. But before he unleashed it, dozens of armored guards poured into the hall, led by the High Empress herself. Her cloak billowed with royal fire, her eyes burning with fury. "Shade," she roared, "your line was banished. You have no claim here." The shade glanced at the overwhelming forces, then at weak but alive, and standing in front of her with nothing but stubborn human will. "This is not over," the shade said softly. "The prophecy has awakened, the will rise, and the human who stands beside it will fall." With a rush of black wind, the shade vanished, leaving a promise of war behind him. Silence fell, lifted carefully. She leaned into him, exhausted, her breath trembling against his shoulder. "You shouldn't have stood in front of that blast," she said weakly. "And you shouldn't have shielded me with your life," he replied. "But we did it anyway." She gave a tired, gentle smile. "Then maybe we belong on the same side." The High Empress approached, eyes scanning the ruined hall, then settling on her daughter and the human holding her with protectiveness that could not be faked. "Hail," she said slowly. "You have changed the empire today. You have won the trial. You have earned my daughter's choice. And you have faced a danger you did not understand without stepping back." Swallowed, overwhelmed. "I didn't do it for an empire, I did it for her." His fingers curled into his sleeve. Emotions softened the Empress's face, pride, worry, and something like respect. "Then protect her well, for she will need you in the days ahead." Met's eyes, tired but shining with warmth. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." She nodded, laying her head against him. "Together." The hall, broken but full of new hope, echoed with the beginning of something no one expected. A human who won the trial. A princess who chose him. A threat rising from forgotten history. And a future they would fight for, not because destiny demanded it, but because they had chosen each other.